What's up everyone? Alex here. I've been playing Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin a ton recently, and having a blast. But despite the memes, reviews, and videos made on this game, people still don't know a lot about it. So I'm here to clear this up and share the 5 things that I absolutely loved about Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Before we get into that, I just want to take the time to thank OMEN by HP for sponsoring this video and sending me this awesome laptop and making me a member of the OMEN squad. Many of you know that I'm primarily a console gamer, but ever since I got this laptop, I've been playing a ton more games on it. This is coming from someone who has been unconvinced of the quality of gaming laptops in the past. So I put this one through the ringer, and I'm happy to report that it performs like a dream. This is what Stranger of Paradise looks like running on a PS4 Pro in performance mode. It's a bit blurry looking, isn't it? Compare that to Stranger of Paradise running on my OMEN laptop and you can clearly see the higher quality. Every piece of gameplay you'll see in this video is captured straight from my OMEN laptop. I love this laptop. And if you want to check OMEN's line of gaming computers, head on over to omen.com and find the gaming machine that'll power your dreams. With that out of the way, here are 5 things that I loved in Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin.
Looks like chaos has been waiting for us.
Is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin a retelling of the first Final Fantasy? Well, yes and no. To really understand this answer, we need to take a quick look at the plot of the game. You can finish the first Final Fantasy within 10 to 15 hours if you know what you're doing. If you consider that length, it's not that long compared to other JRPGs these days, and it's because of this that its plot is very basic. I'm not knocking the plot, just stating a fact. And anyone intimately familiar with its plot will tell you that there's not a lot to elaborate upon, especially given how tight its storytelling was. So instead of retelling Final Fantasy's story in a way that people expect, Stranger of Paradise opted to infuse a ton more attitude into its narrative, and call it a reimagining. And while most stories injected with quote-unquote attitude don't often work, it works extremely well in Stranger of Paradise, effectively distancing it from the inspiration material, which allows them to craft a new story around it. A lot of why this works is because of Jack himself. Jack is so impatient that he's willing to overlook any and all details that'll get us involved in its narrative, which leads me to number 2. The Final Fantasy series has been known to let players bask in gorgeous locales, get engrossed in deep emotional storylines, and meet memorable characters that will stay with us for years to come. Jack doesn't care about any of that. Compared to the many Final Fantasy protagonists who lament about what to do with their lives or other esoteric thoughts, Jack knows exactly what he wants to do: kill chaos. So much so that any moment that makes him feel like his time is being wasted, he'll do whatever it takes to get out of it. If someone's monologue is taking too long, he's going to interrupt them, and possibly beat the crap out of them. If someone tries to make him care about what's happening, he'll instead do something that'll help further his own agenda. Jack is basically a combination of WWE Attitude Era Rock and Fast and Furious Dominic Toretto, and I love it. Jack's singular focus, as strange as it may sound, actually helps sell the idea that Stranger of Paradise is more than just another retread of a classic Final Fantasy. His demeanor tells the purest fans among us that he doesn't give a damn about what they think, as long as he gets to kill chaos. And seeing him kick some teeth in is so strangely satisfying that it comes back around and makes you appreciate what he's doing to the game's narrative. Now that Jack's helped you set aside your preconceived notions of what Stranger of Paradise is all about, we can finally talk about one of the best parts of the game. Having played a ton of turn-based JRPGs that feature their own takes on Final Fantasy's job systems, I've come to the conclusion that I want to see it implemented in a different genre. So imagine my surprise when I found out that Stranger of Paradise did a really good job of adapting the system to work in an action game format. You're able to equip Jack with 2 different jobs, with each having its own set of levels, weapons, and armor. Unlike other iterations of the system, it's actually very easy to max out a job's levels, and each level gives you points to spend in that job's progression tree. And since the job levels are really just tied to how many points you earn, you won't have to worry too much about catching up lower level jobs. But if, for some reason, you still want to do that, you'll find anima shards that will give you extra experience points to level up. Each progression tree allows you to unlock enhanced jobs, which is reminiscent of the original game, as well as cross-job abilities that you can activate by spending MP. Since your weapons and armor govern how much you deal damage and take hits respectively, it's a lot of fun to just take lower level jobs to try and overcome a mission's obstacles with them. It also encourages you to experiment with different types of combinations. I find that all of the jobs in the game are viable, but I highly recommend unlocking White Mage so you can take advantage of their haste spell. It becomes extremely helpful during boss fights. Or if you don't want to unlock White Mage, you can always call in a friend for help. While Stranger of Paradise shares a lot of similarities with Neo, one really big difference between the two is that you can play this game from beginning to end with up to 2 of your friends. What's more, any loot you grab, as well as any story progress you unlock, will carry over with you once you return to your own game. You'll also earn bonus anima shards just for helping your friend out. How does this all work? It's actually pretty easy. Your friend, the host, just needs to open up a lobby in-game and invite you to join in. Once you load into the game, you'll take control of the first available party member that's not Jack, since the host will always play as him. Despite playing someone other than Jack, everything that you've equipped him in your game will instead apply to the character you're playing as. And if your friends aren't that good at action games or the opposite, want more of a challenge, you can always adjust the difficulty at every save point. I actually tried a fair bit of Stranger of Paradise multiplayer, and it was relatively easy to jump into a friend's private game. The netcode was pretty solid on PC, even on a wireless connection, which was rather impressive. This is certainly a way of playing the game that I highly recommend if you've got friends you can party with. And the more you play the game, the more you'll notice that some of the locations in Stranger of Paradise might look familiar, especially if you played other Final Fantasies. Since the developers have freed themselves from the shackles of the original source material, they've decided to use some iconic locations in the series' history as inspirations in creating the game's dungeons. The developers aren't shy about that either. During the loading screens right before each dungeon, you'll notice that the game makes mention of different dimensions. As you might expect, these dimensions are direct references to other Final Fantasies. For example, Provoca Sea Grot is said to have been modeled after a location in Dimension 14. Fans will immediately notice certain visual cues and aesthetic choices in the dungeon as things lifted from Final Fantasy XIV's Sestasha dungeon. So if you're a huge Final Fantasy fan and have played the games, pay attention to what dimension the dungeon is modeled after, and see if you can identify what the inspiration was. And that's 5 things that I loved about Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Are you playing this game right now? Is there anything else you think people need to know about before playing Stranger of Paradise? Post your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.